there exists a website called TV Tropes. It meticulously catalogs recurring plot devices and narrative techniques across media, often with a sardonic edge. If you've consumed enough stories, skimming its entries will inevitably conjure memories of which works deployed which tropes or rather cliches. Scroll to the bottom of any page and you'll find a dozen examples you've heard of. Such a resource is dangerously misleading. Just because a trope appears in countless acclaimed works doesn't mean it's inherently good, nor does it guarantee audiences will tolerate its theft for your own project. It's akin to the gaming industry's ritual of dissecting a successful title in boardrooms, solemnly listing 100 reasons this worked, then scrambling to replicate it only to crash and burn. A story cannot subsist on tropes alone. They are pearls. Sure, you can steal pearls, that's fine. Everyone does, but you still need a string to tie them together to make a necklace. Without it, it's just a scattered pile of beads. And to avoid outright plagiarism, that string has to be your own creation. But what if your pearls are the tackiest, most overused ones? Could such a necklace ever shine? Typically, no. But there are always exceptions. One such exception is called RWBY. A favorite critique of mine goes, RWBY feels like someone randomly stitched together the most groan-worthy TV tropes entries, and yet, somehow, I'm still here. Indeed. And you're not alone. Enough viewers remain to sustain 9 volumes even after the post-Volume 3 quality nosedive drove swaths of its audience away. Beyond fandom, when Rooster Teeth collapsed, VIZ Media, fully aware of the series' decline, still acquired it. Eine potential Volume 10 or reboot. This isn't coincidence, because at one point, someone who was exceptionally skilled at creating that string existed. And even though he's passed away, the legacy he left behind was powerful enough to keep this series alive for 10 years or more. So rather than calling this exception RWBY, perhaps it's more fitting to call this exception Monty Oum. Have you ever encountered a genius? The definition of genius is as varied as the criticism RWBY has accrued over the past decade, perhaps more so. Allow me to propose one. Imagine a group project. You've cobbled together your contribution with all the finesse of a drunken Beowulf. Your teammate glances at it, nods, not bad, and proceeds to transmute your pathetically incompetent sludge into gold through sheer improvisational brilliance, disregarding every established protocol. On Judgment Day, you stand bewildered on a podium, scratching your head, equal parts sawed and mortified. That teammate, that is a genius. No need to blush, RWBY. This isn't about you. Additionally, such minds tend to conjure brilliance on a whim. Let us catalog a fraction of Monty's spontaneous sparks.
Just got this thing clean. Ladies, Ice Queen.
Hey!
Always a pleasure. Neo, if you would.
Neo, the fandom's beloved ice cream-themed menace, materialized 10 days before her debut, inspired by Soulfire's cosplay of Roman or Twick, that Clockwork, or in just Mobster.
Monty was always saying, we have to be flexible. Don't become too rigid and get focused on this, because something cooler will come by. And he's right.
I lost count of the number of times he had ideas for either new moments or new characters the week that the episode came out.
Yeah.
And then we had to, You guys understand, Neo didn't exist until about 10 days before her debut.
That's that's 100% true.
I mean,
she showed up in the fight, and we were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you do want to say about Neo right now?
Yeah, Neo's kind of your brainchild. You want to go into her?
I mean, there, like, to be as vague as possible, there came a need for Torchwick to have like a right-hand woman. So I was like, okay,
A hinge person.
I threw it together. You know, some inspiration came from one of my friend Sonya's female Torchwick cosplay. So I'm like, let me take that and make it a character.
Raven Branwyn, Yang's absentee absolute territory mother. Her weapon, Omen, sprang to life during a single weekend trip. Remnant's world map? Drafted on a ketchup-stained napkin in IHOP, a pancake house during a timed IRM with colleague Shane.
If I'm making this show, that if I figure out what the world is, that geography determines culture, and culture determines your people, and people are part of your story, and that's the most important thing.
So you're saying the world map is like the most important thing?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to tell them how you made the world map?
Okay, so
the most, what according to you is like the most important thing ever?
Do you want to pull up the world map?
They showed it a little while ago. If they want to show it
Okay.
again. We'll put it in the link down.
If you go to the next frame, I also have a paper version. Everyone, by the way, the night I was making this, everyone was very surprised. Carrie was like, "Why are you so good at making maps?" I'm like, "What? It's just a map." I'm like, but like, and then I made a paper version, and Shane was like, "What? You should have a job making maps. You can make maps so well." I'm like, "It's just lines and paper. What's going on?" The way I made this map was the first step I took. There's a video actually. Do you want to play it?
No.
You recorded this? And of course, for anyone listening to the audio podcast, we'll have these images in the link dump.
Right. I'll probably
well.
post this as a RT Life at some point, but this is me and Shane at IHOP.
Do you dress like an anime character everywhere you go?
And look, I'm still wearing red, black, and white, and I'm still yellow.
And red ketchup.
Shane and I, this is like probably mid-crunch July of RWBY 10, and I'm at IHOP with Shane, and I poured ketchup into a napkin and then smooshed it around, and I was like, that's the base for our map. So if you go to the next image, you'll probably see a giant ketchup. Yep, a giant ketchup stain. That's what the map was based off of. I took that into Photoshop and started drawing it off of that.
The entire concept of Team RWBY, conjured in a sleep-deprived haste during yet another all-nighter at the office.
One day, Monty just walked into the studio, and he just he kind of stumbled in and went, "I had a dream. Red, white, black, yellow." And I went, "Cool."
Yeah, that's true, actually. I was like half asleep, and I thought of the colors.
Once upon a time, in a Rooster Teeth studio, not too far away from this one, we were wrapping up Red vs. Blue Season 10, and Monty came in, letting people know that he had had this crazy cool dream the night before.
He came in, late, but just because he was there overnight, and he was still kind of like half awake, and he just walked up to me and he said, "Red, white, black, yellow." And I said, "Yes, Monty, those are 4 colors." And he said, "No, that's a team. They're 4 girls." And I said, "Yes, Monty, go back to sleep." And then the next day, he was like, "Hey, we should make an anime."
In short, RWBY was, in essence, a Monty's dream. Dreaming is effortless, but translating that dream into art, let alone art that resonates, is another matter entirely. Back to 2012. With less than 2 months remaining in the year, Monty single-handedly crafted Crescent Rose, RWBY's iconic weapon, in a week. Then, in under 2 weeks, he produced her character trailer. He enlisted Jeff Williams and his daughter Casey to compose the music. Jeff's reaction? Well.
But at first I was like, what? I didn't know what we were doing or talking about. I had no idea. It's just like, here's this video, and it's like, why is she killing these dogs? This is a show about a psycho fucking kid slicing up dogs? What the fuck? I'm like, I don't know if I want to work on this, man. This is nasty.
Like, I was in that really dark, I was in that goth phase, so I was like, yes!
Yes, RWBY, this time it's about you. You may blush now. According to colleague Shane, finally, at the Monday company-wide meeting, Monty came out, set the laptop on the table, and showed the trailer. Jaws dropped. You could see everyone understood now that this was something big. To this day, RWBY's trailer remains the most viewed video on RWBY's YouTube channel. Let us be clear, those who still remember RWBY, who linger in forums debating a potential Volume 10, cracking fan fiction, or lambasting the writers, all were ensnared by this trailer. It is a very embodiment of the word mesmerizing. A near solo effort by Monty, the trailer brims with his signature style. It established RWBY's core identity, transforming weapons, combat driven by recoil, cool girls, and a vibrant use of color. Everything that followed grew from this foundation. You can't help but adore RWBY's dizzying speed, her high-caliber sniper set, her billowing red-fitted cloak, the scattering rose petals, and the color red. The essence of RWBY lies in this. Unlike most producers who merely pitch ideas and critique, Monty was both the visionary and the executor. 16 hour days, my friend. Let us now examine an excerpt from one of Monty's interviews. My work has always required an unconventional form of thinking and an unconventional application. Many people are often surprised to hear that most of my work is done in Smith Micro's Poser. As a 3D program, Poser might not have some of the superfluous bells and whistles of the more commonly used applications. But I'm a big believer in the idea that a streamlined interface can lead to greater efficiency. I try to challenge the team to embrace solutions regardless of whether they are considered technically correct. If it's not in the manual but it still gets the job done, I'm all for it. When I'm working on my own, I tend to write editorial and animation concurrently. I'm averse to storyboards and over planning. I like to talk about traditional 3D pipelines as being akin to baking. Everything is very deliberate and methodical. My version of 3D animation is more like stir-frying. It's very livent in the moment. If I need a model, I make a model. If a shot or sequence isn't working, I'll cut it, move it, or use it later, sometimes several years later. In short, Monty's breathtaking action sequences, their scenes were never pre-storyboarded. They were entirely improvised. This is evident in the storyboards themselves. When it came to fight scenes, the panels would simply go blank, replaced by a few words Monty action. It was Monty's time to create freely. That is the Monty style.
You were worth every cent. Truly you were.
Of course, the birth of a style requires a foundation. Why does the action always feel so exhilarating? Because, very often, I keep a running queue of fight scenes from so many movies playing. Once Upon a Time in China, Iron Monkey, Police Story, anything Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, Jet Li. A lot of what I've made, I often mimic, then elaborate upon by combining influences. For example, a single move might come from a Jackie Chan movie that is very real and very possible. But then, I might continue that move with the character that can jump 50 feet in the air and fire a gun or swing an elaborate weapon while doing so. Another cornerstone? RWBY is both something I came up with within the last few years as well as something I've wanted to do my whole life. Gurren Lagann is probably my all-time favorite anime. It just has a level of energy and enthusiasm I enjoy. There are subtle and not so subtle lessons in Gurren Lagann about not giving up. Energy that persists beyond oneself that I apply to RWBY. The biggest motivation for RWBY is the need to tell a story much like those I needed when I was growing up. The stories about not giving up that push me along, and the people I meet along the way. Knowing how much all the shows and games I've played all my life has influenced me, it is a great honor to be able to bring something of my own to a generation of people who are also looking for something to believe in. Now you understand how he created this animation, and why. Now, consider what this man achieved. This infuriatingly brilliant individual who seemed to mock the very notion of conventional workflows, used unconventional thinking, unconventional editing software, and solutions deemed technically incorrect by purists. He tossed aside storyboards and rigid planning, blending the choreography and cinematography of Chinese martial arts films, his acute sense of color, his love for animated heroines, his obsession with transforming weapons, and his passion for stories about never giving up into a singular, unparalleled creation, RWBY. In other words, RWBY is the culmination of a genius's life. Genius is not divinity, nor sainthood. Neither was Monty. RWBY was never perfect. Even in Monty's era, it was never flawless. The most ardent fans will admit to cringing at certain choices baked into the show's DA from the start. The 4 entire episodes of Volume 1 devoted to Ja arc, that blonde vomit boy, his tedious American high school bullying arc. The black trailer, the least beloved of the 4, still suffers from cringe-inducing dialogue.
It's time. Looks like we're gonna be doing this the hard way. Let's do this. Buy me some time.
Are you sure?
Do it!
Yet it resonated. Flaws are tolerated when brilliance outshines them. You could drown in arguments claiming Monty intended the story to evolve this way, usually referring to volumes 3 onward. But no cascade theories can obscure the blunt reality after Monty's death. The animation lost its soul. A simple, glaring cause and effect. So what did Monty provide? Why could audiences stomach the show's weaker moments while he lived, yet abandon ship after his passing? Let us begin with the most visceral element, the fight choreography. Monty's influence by Chinese martial arts cinema extended beyond mere combat. It permeated his very cinematic language.
The audience, the eyes contract cannot that fast to change. When you suddenly boom, boom, you change the second film, the audience just so quick. They know there's a fighting going on, but they cannot really see very clear what's going on. Like an American movie, you can see there's a lot of movement. When the camera angle movement, that means the actor, they don't know how to fight. The director used the angle. Then the audience just very dizzy. Yeah, there's something going on. Then suddenly, boom, finished. And so this is why American movie, the sound effect, that's good. Then the audience, then finish the whole fighting scene. So when I'm fighting, it's more like steady. It's not moving. Let the camera, let the audience see what I'm fighting.
Many Chinese martial arts films adhere to the philosophy of prioritizing audience comprehension over gratuitous visual overload. Swift yet intricate combat choreography is often presented through steady wide shots with minimal close-ups. Particularly during blocks of impacts, the camera maintains simultaneous visibility of both attacker and defender, ensuring clear narrative progression even when movements exceed ocular perception. Monty embraced this principle while elevating it through animation's unique cadence. Like modern fighting games employing its stop to emphasize impact, he masterfully manipulated character acceleration-deceleration paired with environmental destruction, sound design, and musical synchronization. The result, combat sequences that transcend mere motion to become visually spectacular choreographic symphonies. The fluidity of the combat is not compromised by its accelerations and decelerations. Instead, these dynamic shifts in pacing enhance the natural expression of raw power and destructive impact. 3 fighters, 1 frame. Monty never flinched from showing Yang taking hits. She dodging, blocking, weathering blows, then striking back, just like Jackie Chan.
You're gonna pay for this.
Another example of coordinating with music. Many people say that after Monty passed away, RWBY's combat became Hollywoodized. This statement isn't entirely accurate. Monty himself wasn't actually opposed to Hollywood-style special effects. Monty's transforming weapons essentially incorporated to distinct combat styles. Ranged attacks align with Hollywood-style special effects, while melee combat adheres to Chinese martial arts choreography. It was precisely this combination of elements that made RWBY's fight seem so uniquely special. Now, keep this acceleration scene in mind. Let's take a look at the situation in Season 3. This is the accelerated performance scene in Season 3. It manifests not only in isolated sprinting actions, but also in every parry and block. Though characters gain hit stop when attacks land, the abrupt speed curve of movements before it, after these moments, makes characters appear as if frozen in a stop-motion animation. Additionally, stable wide-angle shots have almost disappeared, with attacking and defending characters rarely sharing the same frame. Instead, frequent camera cuts dominate the scenes, amplifying the disjointed, stop-motion-like sensation. Most jarringly, the ranged attacks now lack any sense of power or purpose. They exist purely because the animation needed a ranged attack, not because the characters logically required it to defeat opponents or create tactical openings for follow-up strikes. What I mean is, at the very least, the camera here could have focused on how Chrome navigates through this barrage of attacks, particularly highlighting how he sustains injuries from these powerful birds and seizes opportunities to counter them rather than fixating on a static close-up of Winter, even if she undeniably looks stunning. Hey Mercury, don't you dare run off. Let's dissect your contrasting performances in Season 2 versus Season 3.
Hey, your friend's doing pretty good.
Now we're in Season 3. Wow, it seems you're an exception. Congratulations. By Season 7, not only have the transforming weapons vanished, but the characters are reduced to repetitive cycles of shoot, dash, and interact with gimmicky vanishing platforms and tracks. Am I even watching RWBY anymore? Or did I accidentally boot up a Metroidvania? In truth, since Season 3, nearly everyone seemed to forget that weapons were ever capable of transforming. Oh, don't worry, you're the exception, Coco. And let's not forget the one who abandoned her once elegant fusion of figure skating and fencing, reduced to a glorified summoner. And now!
I couldn't take it, couldn't stand another minute. Couldn't bear another day without you in it. All of the joy that I had known for all my life was stripped away from me the minute that you died. To have you in my life was all I ever wanted, but now without you I'm my soul forever haunted. Can't help but feel that I had taken you for granted. No way in hell that I could never comprehend this. I wasn't dreaming when they told me you were gone. I was wide awake and feeling that they had to be wrong. How could you leave me when you swore that you would stay? Now I'm stuck inside of every single effing day. It's like a movie but there's not a happy ending. Every scene fades black and there's no pretending. This little fairy tale doesn't seem to end well. There's a night shining armor will wave me from a spell. I know you didn't plan this. You tried to do what's right, but in the middle of this madness, I'm the one. Let's do it this way. Red light roses, fills my head with dreams that bind me. Always closer to the emptiness and sadness that is going to take the place of you. I know you're broken down by anger and by sadness. You feel I left you in a world that's full of madness. Wish I could talk to you if only for a minute. Make you understand the reasons why I did it. I wanna tell you that you're all that ever mattered. Want you to know that for eternity I'm shattered. I tried so hard just to protect you, but I failed to. And in a prison of abandonment I jailed you. I never planned that I would leave you there alone. I was sure that I would see you when I made it back home. And all the times I swore that it would be okay. Now I'm nothing but a liar and you're thrown into the fray. This bedtime story ends with misery ever after. The pages are torn and there's no final chapter. I didn't have a choice, I did what I had to do. I made a sacrifice and forced a bigger sacrifice on you. I know you lived a nightmare. I caused you so much pain. But baby, please don't do what I did. I don't want you to waste your life in vain. Red like roses, fills my head with dreams that bind me. Always closer to the emptiness and sadness that is going to take the place of you.
Not bad, huh? But starting in Season 5, she clearly developed amnesia. Not only did she forget her rapier fencing skills, but she kept recklessly exposing herself to attacks, burning critical seconds in time-sensitive combat to summon disposable pets that fold after just one hit. please, spare me the shocked reaction. This isn't the first time your glorified pet got instantly wrecked. Why not ditch the rapier entirely for a summoner's staff? Oh right. You still need to chop things with that needle-thin blade, like this. And this. Have you no shame? As for the final boss, Salem, not only does she lack a transforming weapon, she doesn't wield any weapon at all, instead resorting to bare-handed energy blasts. RWBY, our beloved leader, though her combat skills remain intact. The post-Volume 3 narrative forces her to scream and flash her silver eyes at every encounter with Cinder, here with the latter exaggerated, fearful expressions. This comedic effect has indeed injected no shortage of unintentional humor into the grim narrative following Season 3. Everyone has suffered, but perhaps none more than Adam. As the sole major antagonist introduced in the trailers who should have received complex narrative development and an epic climactic battle, his treatment was perplexing. First, reduced to an obsessive, Yandere-edge lord, then embarrassingly defeated by Blake with a single strike in Volume 5, utterly undignified.
It's over.
His final confrontation in Volume 6's finale partially redeemed him. Ironically, the fight choreography felt unexpectedly refined, almost incongruent with post-Volume 3 standards. Curious, isn't it? Let's rewind to 2016. Shane Newville, the man who documented Monty crafting the world map with ketchup, released an open letter. The emotionally charged manifesto chronicled their story since 2007, Monty's seismic creative influence, and RWBY's alleged derailment after Monty's passing. Read like fanatical ratings at the time, because it essentially was. Shane wasn't just a colleague, he was the biggest Monty fan on the planet. He said Yang vs. Adam fight was looking beyond badass. Monty was using a Linkin Park song as the soundtrack to animate it, but they didn't even write it in the script, because they didn't look at what Monty created for the scene before they began. It was even more of a surprise to me since I had rendered out Monty's timelines for them. At the producer's request, before production even started, they didn't even look at what Monty, the creator of the show, made for his show. He said about RWBY versus Torchwick and Neo, as soon as I heard they decided to put this fight on top of an aircraft, I face-palmed inside. That meant the stuff Monty made for this fight would no longer make sense. When I heard they wanted to change the ending so that Neo's umbrella goes poof and she gets whisked away in the wind, I think I face-palmed so hard I may have suffered a concussion. I then wanted absolutely nothing to do with that scene. I didn't want to have my name on something. I was straight up just shitting all over what Monty made.
If you can't beat him,
he said, the only thing left that I could do was the final fight, Kira versus Cinder. I knew how it was supposed to go for the most part, because Monty talked a lot about it. It hurt to think to myself what changes they had in store for this fight. A lot of it was still intact, but they modified just enough of it that it did not have the same emotional impact. No longer did we get to see Kira as the perfect warrior who could actually stand a chance against Cinder, who is now so OP it's almost a joke. He vehemently objected to assigning Kira's death sequence to a specific animator, knowing their creative limitations. The directors dismissed his concerns with, that animator earned this moment. The betrayal drove him berserk. He said, the most important thing to me was to do our best making the show go on the way Monty intended. The way he left it in perfect condition for us to do. All the pieces were there ready to be utilized so the show would flourish more than ever. But no, people thought they knew better. They thought the wheel Monty invented was not good enough and attempted to start over in their own way. In fact, at that time, there was zero evidence suggesting these were just personal delusions. Perhaps grief over Monty's death had fractured his perception of reality. Until each material surfaced years later. Monty's original scene for Yang vs. Adam, Kira's incineration animation, and Venus Adele, a character who tied to Coco Adele. This also makes it clear that Monty had a much different show for the series than what we got. Yes, Yang would still lose her arm. Kira would still die. But not in this way. Yang was supposed to have an equally matched, explosive duel against Adam set to Linkin Park's music. Kira should have kept fighting Cinder through burns and blood even after her aura shattered. And here's the point. RWBY's writing was never about what happens, but how it happens. We needed intense yet logical fight choreography to express character and guide battles toward their destined conclusions. Not characters be ordered to die because the plot demands it when the timer runs out. After Monty's passing, RWBY lost its philosophy of prioritizing how, the artistry of execution. Narrative tropes now exist as hollow checkmarks. The story awkwardly lurches from point A to B with connective tissue rendered meaningless. RWBY became a desiccated husk of plot archetypes. No one remained to string those narrative pearls into a necklace through dazzling yet believable action. Or, if they could, the new directors forbade it. The pearls lie scattered, just like Adam's fight. Years later, when comparing these leaked concepts to Volume 6's execution, we finally understand Shane's fury. Adam's full power strike gets casually blocked by Yang before he's flung away like trash. The same arm that once shattered military mechs and severed her limb now effortlessly stops his blade. The Adam who fluidly fired his scabbard gun in trailers suddenly forgets its existence, obsessively dueling Blake over a broken weapon instead of shooting her or the blade. His death feels as a nerd as Yang lost her arm in Volume 3. Just like a mirror. Mirror, tell me who's the greatest Joker?
Gotcha. I may not be faster, but I'm smarter.
No!
Perhaps Yang unlocked an auxiliary semblance without us knowing. Punch-induced amnesia that specifically targets memory of ranged weapons. Adam certainly seemed afflicted by it. They took Monty's choreography originally intended for Volume 3's climax and slapped on the most narratively implausible fight conclusion. What do those viewers feel now? The ones who gazopped not the earlier sequences, believing Monty's style had somehow returned. There, pardon my language, shitting on Monty's final work. It's hard to conceive of a greater disrespect toward Monty than this. Actually, just a few episodes earlier, Neo and Cinder had an exceptionally well-executed combat sequence. If we accept that this action choreography wasn't done by Monty, which indeed stands as the last impressive showdown up to Volume 9, then Adam's botched conclusion isn't about ability. It's a deliberate choice. Let me reiterate, this White Fang leader, branded by the Schneidus Company's mark on his eye, a character whose arc should have been deeply tied to the Schnee family, never once fought a Schnee, never even exchanged a single word with the so-called Ice Queen before his death. This wasn't her fault, I mean.
Wait. Neo?
Maybe put away the good glasses.
What are you doing?
This brings to mind Shane's words. This isn't Monty's vision. What could be more damning than Monty's own animations going unused or being repurposed at will? Would Monty ever create fight choreography that betrayed his vision? After his death, everything about Monty's software and workflow was altered. Hoser was replaced with Maya. Fight sequences were forced into rigid storyboard frameworks. Shane recalls someone stating, Monty's behaviors are unacceptable. And adds, previously in Volume 2, they treated Monty poorly with regards to him adding the scene with Raven after the credits. They tried very hard to cut it, but obviously were not successful.
Blame, girl. I didn't kill your boss. If you want revenge, take it up with Little Red. You're not the only one with a grudge against RWBY. Listen! We both want that girl dead.
While Shane's claims remain unverified, the characters themselves have been warped beyond recognition, literally. Observe their designs from Volume 1 to 4, then to 9.
They see you as small and helpless. They see you as just a child. Surprised when they find out that a warrior will soon run wild. Prepare for your greatest moments. Prepare for your finest hour. The dream that you've always dreamed is suddenly about to flower. We are lightning, straight from the thunder. Miracle of ancient wonder. This will be the day we've waited for. This will be the day we open up the door. Evolution, hope you're ready for evolution. Welcome to a world of dissolution. Welcome to a world of bloody evolution. In time, hope will open mind. The story will be told. And victory is in its simple soul.
Hey, sis. Boop. What are you doing up?
Can't fall back asleep.
Me neither. Well, fortunately, coffee exists. The character design changes in Volume 4 aren't actually terrible. The biggest casualty is definitely Blake. Her alluring charm kind of faded, leaving her looking at Dowdy.
And you passed the exam with flying colors.
I was raised outside the kingdoms. If you can't fight, you can't survive.
But she still can't outdrib Mew in Volume 6. Our dear Miss Neapolitan ice cream with that jarring green eyeshadow ended up looking about as stylish as a sprouting potato. The real disaster lies in the character design changes from Volume 7 to Volume 9. Imagine the feelings of someone who hasn't watched RWBY in nearly a decade when they casually open Volume 9 to check how the characters look now.
That wasn't an invitation, Weiss. Sorry. If we could ask, have you seen anyone else who looks like us? Long, blonde hair.
Yang underwent the least changes among them, but her personality shift is no less drastic than Blake's visual transformation.
Yang! Damn it! You weren't supposed to be here.
Even more telling, when licensing merchandise or collaborating with other intellectual properties, guess which versions of these characters they use?
Hello! How's everyone doing?
Team RWBY is back.
All right, let's make this a good one.
Then I'll count us down. 3, 2, 1. Fight!
I let my guard down.
way.
Obviously, the Bikaner RWBY was far more beloved both in appearance and personality. Our hot big sister Yang, who remained confident even when injured, also had abandonment issues due to her mother, but was in a healthy mental space over it, has disappeared forever. They transformed this joke-cracking, sister-loving party girl into an insufferably neurotic hypocrite who no longer cares about her sister, only obsessing over Blake. She's relegated to being overly pissy, constantly irritated, even to RWBY. She watches RWBY commit suicide, has no reaction whatsoever, then smiles and hugs her minutes later. Even the RWBY wiki details how she deflects blame. Everything comes down to the execution. At least here they could actually arrive too late rather than arriving early, but doing nothing, especially when Yang is still the most impulsive member of the team. Yes, even after having just witnessed her sister's suicide, she has chosen to continue clinging to Blake. Blake, the mysterious, book-loving, badass fighter we knew is gone forever too, now reduced to just being Yang's kitten. Blake went from a warrior who fought skillfully to a pet, hiding behind Yang when she's getting yelled at by RWBY. She regressed in her bravery, competency, and mental-emotional fortitude. They become hollow shells selling lesbian appeal. In truth, the writers don't care about Yang and Blake as characters, only about their ship, which is why the story literally traps them in a kiss or die scenario.
Just say it, Yang. I think I love you.
I love you too.
The relationship between these two is so weakly written that they had to be forcibly teleported into a locked room with a no kiss, no escape rule. A trope even most fanfiction will reject, just to advance their relationship. They might as well just create a game called RWBY Escape Euphoria at this point. Unfortunately, even the male characters suffer this. Needing a gay storyline, they suddenly paired Uncle Crow, who hasn't demonstrated any combat skills since Volume 4 with a brand new male character.
My semblance brings misfortune. Sometimes I can't keep it under control.
That's so? My semblance is good fortune. Lucky you, huh?
Only to have him sacrifice this man in the finale. All this while forcing Crow to collaborate with the same murderer who tried to kill RWBY in Volume 4 and nearly killed himself.
So let's say we put the kid to bed and then finish it. I wanted to trust you. Good luck.
Nearly every character gets destroyed this way. The writers keep repeating this pattern of prioritizing plot points over organic storytelling. Even Penny, resurrected in Volume 7, gets inexplicably killed off again through for strike. Just quickly die in whatever way you can. This because the plot demands it mentality permeates everything. Characters act like hypnotized puppets, abandoning their established personalities, convictions, and combat styles to mechanically execute the writer checklist of plot devices. Parallel to the issue of prioritizing plot over characters is the endlessly expanding world building. In Volume 1, humanity during the Dark Age developed civilizations centered around dust to resist Grimm. Dust, semblance, aura, transformable weapons, these formed the core of RWBY's world building and remained tools consistently utilized by Team RWBY. Then came the Maiden's entities Team RWBY needed to pursue. Later, they added Silver Eyes. Post-Volume 4, the 4 relics were introduced. While the Maidens retained an indirect connection to Dust through elemental associations, the relics became entirely disconnected from Dust. The Maidens were reduced to mere keys for accessing the relics. After Volume 6, the narrative revealed that Salem's existence traces back to the twin gods.
Immortal.
Immortal?
You cannot die. You cannot be with your beloved. So long as this world turns, you shall walk its face.
By Volume 9, it further declared that even these twin gods derive their power from the Great Tree.
First, they were given the power to destroy, to clear the wilderness away. Then they were given creativity to imagine what and who could replace the wilderness.
The core issue isn't necessarily with these added settings themselves. They appear as bloated, neglected additions precisely because these concepts bear no meaningful connection to Team RWBY. They don't deeply direct the plot, alter any character's personality, or tie into the character's destinies. A pearl necklace exists to be worn by someone. We could argue that while the two writers were likely trusted friends of Monty and clearly adore this world building and its mechanics, they evidently love the world far more than the characters. Except for John, that is, a character voiced by one of the writers. His screen time rivals the combined focus of Team RWBY. The writers invest more in John's Arcane the Sale Amos Misaga than in Team RWBY's journey. Moreover, this writing philosophy aligns exactly with why fans stopped watching the show and buying merchandise. Or, as one Reddit comment bluntly put it, Penny had a heart, but the writers don't. Now that we've gathered these puzzle pieces, we can attempt to piece together Monty's original vision. Elements like Silver Eyes power and relics most likely weren't part of Monty's plans. As someone with acute color sensibilities, he would have avoided giving RWBY and Mercury similar hues if Silver Eyes were really that important. It's merely akin to how Harry's eyes resembled his mother's. More crucially, in Monty's draft, RWBY wasn't meant to awaken Silver Eyes in Volume 3's climax. John, not RWBY, should have witnessed Kira's death. Regarding the relics?
Of course. The Relic of Knowledge has a wonderful and incredibly dangerous ability. Where's the relic?
Right here. It first appeared in Volume 1.
You will find an abandoned temple at the end of the path containing several relics.
How about a cute little pony?
What self-respecting world swoopler would let the same term describe to unrelated concepts? Without Silver Eyes power, RWBY's focus could have stayed on her crescent rose semblance, not becoming a walking flashlight. Meanwhile, Raven's originally planned volume to clash with Team Juniper would have established her earlier, allowing deeper exploration of her past and dynamic with Yang, rather than her fleeting cameo in Volume 2. Considering Yang's or Craval's rap confronting her mother, Raven's recurrent presence would have sharply defined Yang's resolve and vulnerabilities. What shapes a child more than the parent who abandoned them? Furthermore, as evidenced in the Monty's draft materials, more characters tied to Team RWBY would have joined the battles. Not only would Velvet have appeared multiple times, but there would have been a storyline where Raven and Yin confront Venus and Bane together as mother and daughter, rather than isolating their narratives, reducing Raven to an absentee mother who vanishes again after Volume 5 and turning Yang into, well, you know what I mean. Kira clearly would have clashed with Sun in combat instead of dying prematurely to Cinder. the pacing wouldn't have felt so rushed, and we would have witnessed far richer character interactions and meticulously choreographed fight sequences. And let's not forget the fairy tales. Let's dream like one. This is a fairy tale-themed world. Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But these are merely surface-level references. Monty loved designing characters to visually mimic one archetype while their narrative arcs followed another tale entirely, though this duality now lies in fragments. What we can confirm: Adam is both the Beast and Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Ozpin isn't just the Wizard of Oz, he's Odin, with twin ravens scouting the world while he wanders in countless guises. Oscar isn't merely Tip who becomes Princess Ozma, Oz's lost ruler. He's also the little prince.
So yeah, Oscar, drumroll please, his fairy tale illusion is the Little Prince.
Crow isn't just Little Red's huntsman, he's the brainless scarecrow. If every major character has dual archetypes, what about Team RWBY? The Ice Queen? A nod to the Snow Queen, especially an Ice Queenum. Think Kai, who lost his humanity, and Gerda's quest to save him. Blake, whose white fang lore parallels the Jungle Book, Sienna Khan from Shere Khan, Chihira from Bahira. Yet Mowgli, the wolf-raised protagonist who leads the pack, remains unaccounted for. Yang, the girl searching for a raven-stricken loved one, losing a part of herself on the journey, a take on the 7 ravens. And when Monty conceived the 4 maidens between Volume 2 and Volume 3, could this concept have been designed to mirror Team RWBY's core? Raven, now the Spring Maiden. What if Yang's name literally encodes Yang of Yang Chun, the bright spring? Summer Rose, RWBY's mother. Summer. What if she were the Summer Maiden? What if Blake's trailer was in Forever Fall? As for the Ice Queen, you know that. What if RWBY and Yang's quest for the maidens was simultaneously a search for their mothers? The entire RWBY saga could have been their journey to inherit the 4 maidens' mantles, seamlessly fusing world-building with protagonist arcs, rather than leaving them disjointed. Now, in a wild dream, RWBY falling into Beacon, colliding with Weiss, the hurried White Rabbit, encountering Blake, the vanishing Cheshire Cat who eating shadow clones, and reuniting with her sister. She'd meet a Mad Hatter, battle the Jabberwock, and seek Queen Summer, only to unwittingly realize she had become the maiden. The Alice. How could someone so deeply enamored with fairy tale archetypes possibly have overlooked Alice for so long? Until Volume 9. In the wildest of dreams, Monty never died. He kept refining his world building. Forever a genius, eternally unconventional. Still wielding his niche poser software, still thinking in unorthodox rhythms, still animating without storyboards. Still collaborating with Williams Melodies to craft the most electrifying fight scenes and iconic characters. You'd never doubt the brilliance of every clash, how Yang would lose her arm, how Pure Ah would fight to her last breath. All pulsating with his soul. Yet these are but dreams. And yet, RWBY itself stepped out of the dream realm. So we return to that golden morning. Half awake, Monty saw 4 girls walk into his dream. He awoke, slapped the table, and declared, "I dreamed of 4 girls. Red, white, black, yellow." And they walked out of Monty's dream. That year, and all years since, they've walked into ours.